Okay, so this is the lesson die on the work plane. And when they say die, they are referring to this die or dice. So, die on the work plane. This project is all about the work plane and how to make it work for you. Instructions. Continue to the next step. Die is almost done. We're starting with a die that is almost done. You simply need to add the 5 and 6. Instructions. 1. Go ahead and use your mouse or the view cube to look around the die. 2. You will see a number on all other sides. So if I scroll in, you'll notice that these two sides are blank. But if I move my work plane around, all the other numbers are already there. Okay? Alright, so continue to the next step. Move the work plane. Now move the work plane to the front of the die. Instructions. 1. You can find the work plane tool at the top of the browser on the right of the screen just above the shapes. 2. Drag a work plane tool to the front of the die. So first of all, notice that this dotted line has showed up in front of this empty part of the die with the dot here. That's indicating where we should drop our work plane. So up here is the work plane tool. So if I drag this to a side of an object, it will make any side of that object the work plane, which is a very useful tool, and you'll see why in a second. So I'll click and drag that there. Okay, so now the work plane is the front of the die. It's going to make putting the numbers there a lot easier. Okay, place the number 5. Great job. The work plane should look like it's sitting on front of the die. Instructions. 1. In the Shapes panel, change the Shapes drop-down to text. 2. Scroll down to the bottom of the panel to find the numbers. They are listed just below the letters. 3. Drag the number 5 to the work plane. 4. Position it near the area highlighted in orange. Okay, so that's a lot of steps. So let's take this one at a time. So first of all, I'm going to come over to the Shapes panel. I'll drop down here and I'll go to Text and Numbers. I need to get to number 5. So this is all the letters. So I'll click 2. And okay, there's a 5. So it wants me to drag it to the work plane and place it where it should be. Okay. It looks like it's a little off, so I'm going to change my snap grid to make it more exact. Okay. All right. Continue to the next step. Scale the 5 smaller. Because the 5 is sitting on the front of the die, we need to make some adjustments. Instructions. 1. Let's scale the thickness of the 5 down to 1 millimeter so it matches the area highlighted in orange. 2. You can change the snap grid from 1 to 0.25 to help position the 5. So what they want us to do is basically make the 5 thinner, because as you notice, all the other numbers on this die are not as thick as the 5. So what we're going to do is, if we click here, we can see that this is 4 millimeters in height, but they want it to be 1. So we can either click and drag this down to 1, or we can just click here, backspace the 4 and change it to 1, and there we go. Okay? All right. Rinse and repeat. Repeat the previous steps to add a 6 to the top of the die. Instructions. 1. Drag a work plane to the top of the die. Hint, remember you can press W on the keyboard to start the work plane command. So it wants us to put a work plane here, so let's do that. Okay, so now the work plane is on top of this die. And they want us to do the exact same thing with the 6. So I'll put that there. I'll adjust it a little bit. Okay. Make the 6 shorter. Let's make sure the 6 doesn't stick out past the edge of the die. Instructions. 1. Scale the number 6 to 1 millimeters in height. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make it thinner. So again, I'm going to click here, change that to 1, and hit enter. Okay, continue to the next step. Reset the work plane. Let's set the work plane back to its original location. Instructions. 1. Drag a work plane to a blank location in the work area. 2. Make sure not to drop the work plane on a shape at this time. 3. This is how you reset your work plane. Okay, so what they're basically telling us is that if we no longer want the work plane to be here, we're going to click the work plane tool and drag another work plane to the new work plane and there we go, and just drop it on there, and that will reset the work plane back to where it originally was. Okay, almost done. Now you need to group all the shapes together. Instructions. 1. Select all the shapes including the die. 2. Click group on the toolbar to make them a single shape. So I'll scroll out, I'll click and drag around here, I'll click on group, and that grouped my whole die together. Okay, and that is it. So this has been Die on the Work Plane. Thanks everybody. Bye.